in terms of defense because they're going to have an opportunity to draft the best defensive player in the draft on their board with Mendoza going number 1. Do they trade down? There's a lot of different possibilities here. Matt, where are you leaning as of today where things are obviously fluid? Things can change very rapidly here with the New York Jets at pick 2.
Yeah, there's really a lot of different options, and the 3 guys you have on the graphic are all, I think, really good choices in Arvell Reese, Caleb Downs, and Ruben Bain. I would throw Carnell Tate in there too. I know that's probably a little bit early for him, but I still think he's a top 10 pick, and I don't think it's that much of a reach. David Bailey, the edge rusher from Texas Tech, has been picking up some steam too. If I was making the decision today, I would say Arvell Reese, but I think you can make a strong case for honestly any one of those guys that I just rattled off.
Yeah, I think that it's really just a preference of. Now, my question with Ruben Bain, let's dive deep into that. Is there a world where they trade Will McDonald or Jermaine in that scenario? They don't pick up the 5th-year option because it'll be hard to draft a Bain and keep McDonald and Jermaine long term. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I would. I don't know if those guys are part of the long-term future. Like that might be hey, if we're not good at the trade deadline again this year, we'd move on from one of those 2 guys. Or if Robert Saleh gets a head coaching job somewhere and is looking for an edge rusher, I would be calling up Robert Saleh and seeing if he wants to give anything for one of those 2 guys. For me with Reese, I know he plays both linebacker and edge. So I think he's more of an edge. So I'd toss him into that conversation too, just with like Ruben Bain. Although some are arguing with Ruben Bain's arm size that he might have to play on the interior defensive line.
Alligator arms, T-Rex arms. Oh,
yeah. I don't know if I'm willing to go that far just yet. I think, you watch the tape, he's obviously a really good player, but that might be something that they consider at the top too.
Jake, where are you at right now on the 2nd overall pick with Dante Moore out of the equation? Where do you think the Jets are going to go really early in the process? Where are you at?
I like Bain just because I love the idea of being able to quote Bain on the show the next year. Like we Jet fans, we were born in the dark. So it'd be great if Ruben Bain gets up there after being drafted and he says to everyone out there, you all were merely adopted the dark. I was born in it, molded by it. Or he gets up there and is like, I am Gotham's reckoning. And it'd be fitting because the Jets did have the Gotham City rivalry jerseys. So I just love the idea of having a quotable draft prospect. He's also really good too. We'll watch him Monday night in the national title game. So I like him. I like the idea of potentially going a receiver at 2. People might think I'm nuts, but I just feel like if we went through a 3-14 season and there's some of these receivers being mocked in the top 5 anyway, like I don't need to hear, 2's too early for a wide receiver. Well, maybe not. If you think Carnell Tate is worth it, or you think Jordan Tyson is worth it, like I'm open to that. They got to get an impact player is my big thing because we just sat through hell. We're not going to come out of it with a top quarterback pick now. Okay, so what's our prize for this number 2 pick? It better be an impact player. So I'm open to everything. Even Caleb Downs is safety, and I've been very anti taking a safety that high, but they can't screw this up. They have to get an impactful player after what we just sat through this year.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask about Caleb Downs as a follow-up because that was one name I was curious to get your guys' opinion on. Some people think safety at 2 is a little rich, but then let's not forget that the Jets just went through a season with no interceptions. So I can't really blame them if they go after a guy in the secondary that's capable of getting those things. How would you feel about a Caleb Downs? We had a debate, how long ago was it, with the Kyle Hamilton thing, right? And then he turns out to be an absolute stud. And that debate was more about positional value. So I don't think the Jets would go Caleb Downs at 2, but I love the prospect, and it's at a position of need. What's your thoughts, Matt, about Downs at 2?
Yeah, I was one of those people who were saying that I wouldn't take Kyle Hamilton because I think there's so many other needs. And, maybe it's just like another 4 years of this has completely broken me. But if they took Caleb Downs, so be it, right? Like their defense is horrendous at all levels, all 3 levels of the defense. And as you rightfully pointed out, they had 0 interceptions. If they view Caleb Downs as someone who is generational, and that word gets tossed out way too much, but he's being talked about as an even better safety prospect than what Kyle Hamilton was. Well, if they draft him and he's, Ed Reed or Troy Polamalu for 15 years, then that will, I think, help this team. So probably not my number one choice if you're asking me today, but if they took him, I would completely understand it.
Yeah, and I think like another option that too is trade down, but the big question is who is trading up and what player are they targeting? So I think that's another big question. A lot of people think it's easy just to trade down, but you got to have a team willing to trade down for. Now, going into that 16th pick, and obviously it depends where you get at number 2, is there anybody you're targeting at 16 right now with that Colts pick? Because my personal favorite is a Mekhi Lemon from USC. I think that's a perfect spot for a wide receiver. I know, Jake, you said you'd be down for a receiver at 2, which I honestly wouldn't be against either. But I think 16 is your prime real estate for a wide receiver or a playmaker. But the big debate right now, I think, amongst Jets fans is, do they go with the first 4 picks in the first 2 rounds, like 3 of the 4 defense? Or do you split it down the middle, 2 offense, 2 defense? Do you just go best player available? Because this defense was so bad, but you also want to keep building out the offense. What position do you think the Jets should be leaning more towards at that 16th pick range? Matt, I'll start with you.
Yeah, for me at the 16th pick, it really depends, right? And I don't really have like a formula in my head. Like they got to come away with 2 on defense and 2 on offense or whatever. But I could tell you right now 2 names who stand out to me that might be in that range, and that's the wide receiver from USC, Mekhi Lemon, and also Sonny Styles, the linebacker. I think you can make a case, and that to me, like if you take a defensive player at 2, that doesn't then take you out of taking another defensive player at 16. I think you go best available. If both are on the board, I probably would lean Lemon over Sonny Styles, but again, like the Jets linebacker play was awful last year. It needs to be a room that's completely redone. I would expect them to sign a free agent and also look to add in the draft. If they don't do it at 16, probably do it on day 2. So I think it's a big need. I would be looking at those 2 guys with the 16th pick.
Yeah, there's a lot of options, and I think that this class is really deep. One position I do love in this class is linebacker, and I'm curious if the Jets are going to get one of those top guys. Jake, your thoughts of that 16th pick this early on in the process? Have you done any research in terms of where you like the Jets to go at 16 yet?
Would love a weapon there if they go defense with the first pick, which probably feels likely if you're just taking a consensus now on who the top players are. So I'd prefer a weapon if you can get Mekhi Lemon from USC. I really like him, watching some of the film that Joe Blow was posting about with him the other day. To me, if you could come away with a stud on offense, a stud on defense, I love it. I'm all for it. I do think you want to go BPA, though. You don't want to just reach for the sake of reaching. But again, there's good players in the draft. Sonny Styles, as Matt brought up, is there at 16. I'd run the card, and I think that'd be awesome.
Yeah, Sonny Styles would be crazy if he can fall to 16, which I don't think is going to happen. But hey, we've seen crazier things. One position, would you be interested in a corner at 16, or do you feel like you don't really want to take a corner in the first round? Because the Jets now have a hole at corner. Do they believe in Brandon Stevens, number 1, long-term? I don't think any of us do. Azareye'h Thomas looked promising. I love him as a rookie, but his inconsistencies in terms of being healthy was definitely up for grabs. Are the Jets going to go out there and try to find a new corner this offseason? Could that be the pick at 16 or maybe in the second round? Are they going to get a corner early to replace Sauce, or are they comfortable with what they have? Matt, what do you think about that position?
Not that I love the positional group, but I think I'm okay with having AZ Thomas, Brandon Stevens, and Jarvis Brownlee as your starting trio, at least for next year, and giving it a look. And if, Stevens is not playing well, or AZ Thomas shows that, hey, he's probably not ready to be a starter, then with all your picks in the 2027 draft, I think maybe you could take a look and look to add in either free agency in the draft at that point. But corner, you could argue it's a need, but I think there's so many other rooms that need more addressing or fixing first before I get to corner. So you can argue it. You could argue for just about any positional group on this team, but I would have corner a little bit further down the list.